Okay, so welcome everybody to the Stainless Steel World podcast. Today we have a very special guest, Miss Teresa Chong, who's joining us all the way from Singapore. Teresa is the Managing Director of Murray Energy in Singapore, and she's also an expert on blockchain and supply chain digitalization. So welcome, Teresa.
Thank you, Joanne, for having me. It's my honor and pleasure to be on this platform to share with people what am I doing and what I discover.
Yeah, and some very interesting things that you're doing as well, which is what we're going to learn all about today. Now, your background is you've got over 20 years in the steel industry, supplying mainly to the oil and gas sector, but other areas as well, and also to the power industry. So if you look back over those 20 years, Teresa, how do you think that the material requirements have changed in that time?
So when I finished my university, I majored in applied chemistry. And after I've graduated, the first job that I came across is steel trading in a company in Singapore. I think the last 20 years, the main concern was getting the right grade, the right price, and the right delivery, whether it's delivery on time. But now with more upstream projects that is going further offshore or going deeper into the seabed, the safety expectations are actually higher. And it means that more verified testings, third-party inspections are requested on the material. And back then, offshore renewable energy wasn't something that I heard much about. It was almost non-existent in Asia. A lot of our clients back then, they were still very much focused on coal-fired power plant projects. So over the last decade, we have seen more and more European offshore wind projects that is being fabricated in Asia. And for us, it means that the focus or the requirements on the material are much focused on the exact specifications that meet the offshore energy market, not just the material grades, but also the requirement on the documentations and the certifications and the traceability. So I realized that the documents, the paperwork itself, or the proof are just as important as the steel itself.
Okay, it's a really interesting change. So if you're talking about these big offshore projects, obviously stainless steel plays a really critical role because it's a corrosive environment. So what trends are you seeing in, say, alloy selection, specification, and sourcing for these big energy projects?
20 years ago, there's no such thing called lean duplex. But now, lean duplex could be one of the possible grade, which is better than stainless steel 316L. Whereas on the sourcing side, I see that big operators, they are asking for full supply chain transparency because stainless steel, as you know, they use rare minerals like nickel, moly, and chromium, and all these are finite resources on Earth. So some owners or operators, they are requesting or they are moving towards more sustainable and circular sourcing materials. So instead of focusing on completing project, it's really more being ethical in sourcing. We call it responsible sourcing, and also compliance to the ESG to meet the climate targets.
Yeah, it's interesting that the sustainability goals are also driving changes in the steel industry in ways that we may not think of most obviously when we talk about green steel. So Teresa, your latest initiative that you're involved in focuses on solving approval workflow and traceability challenges. So can you walk us through the core idea and what gap in the market is this initiative designed to fit into?
I rarely see the delay of the projects was because of the steel. Instead, a lot of them was because the approvals of the production get stuck somewhere in the email thread or in the WhatsApp. So I personally encountered one time that an EPC, they approved we call it inspection test plan. So this is the critical approval that required from the EPC in order to allow the mill or manufacturer to kickstart the production. However, the operator or the owner didn't know that it was being approved. So the mill had to stop the production for 2 weeks until the operator gives them the green light. So that's the risk, because production without the approvals can start and then it might be being held up unnecessarily. So the core idea is to centralize and digitalize these workflows so that all stakeholders, not only certain particular people, but the mills, the entire supply chain, the inspectors, the EPCs, the operators, then they can come together and work from a centralized platform. And this eliminates the requirement for us to keep chasing the EPCs and without knowing whether the end client, the operator, has already approved the ITP or not. So we do a case study, and if this works, it will actually eliminate the approval time from 6 weeks to 6 minutes.
Okay, that sounds amazing. What a huge change for the whole industry, actually, if this could be achieved.
Yeah. So currently, the way that these data are being communicated, it's transferring the information, is kind of relaying the message from A to B and to C. So the information could be scattered everywhere, in the emails, in the WhatsApp, in the Zoom meeting, in the transcribed notes, for example.
And it brings it all together. So if we're looking ahead, what's the role that these kind of platforms can play in, say, promoting sustainability, traceability, smarter procurement in the stainless steel industry?
So I would say such platforms, they directly promote sustainability by reducing the rework or scrap or unnecessary logistic movement caused by the late stage material issues. And also the other thing is there are a lot of regulations required to meet the target goals, climate targets, and this platform can capture the carbon footprint of the steel. It's not easy to capture the carbon footprint from the steel. For example, moving across the supply chain from the steel manufacturer all the way to the asset owner. So there will be like scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. And I think the biggest part of it is the scope 1. So this platform would then able to track the carbon footprint of the steel moving across the supply chain.
Okay.
And the other thing about smarter procurement is once we have reliable, structured data available from the early stages through the platform like this, then it will be allowed procurement to make easier decisions or smarter decisions. Commercial teams, they can move away from just focusing on traditional way of just project by project tendering. Instead, they can leverage on past data, history data, and focus on making better decisions.
Okay, now Teresa, you've mentioned blockchain a couple of times, so let's just hone in on that a little bit. What role do you think that blockchain and artificial intelligence can realistically play in, say, streamlining procurement and QA processes in the stainless steel supply chain?
I think the number one characteristic of blockchain is the integrity of the data. No one can manipulate the data once the records are being uploaded onto the blockchain ledger. No one can change it. It's tamper-proof. So I think this is important because the way that the current industry is practicing is like people can fake the mail cert, can edit the data. It's like the dark side of the industry. So I think this blockchain platform can really empower that execution. On the AI side, AI actually can do a lot of things and currently is still on the development, right? And it can definitely automate document checks, reduce the human's errors of people manually checking the mail certificates, and raise the flag issues if there is any at the early stage of the production. And based on all these past day data, they can do predictions. Whether they are likely to cause issues or quality issues on the steel based on historic data. So these are the ways that blockchain and AI can play on the steel supply chain.
Right. So if we're looking at practical examples, how do you see blockchain actually being used in a practical way? Can you give us an example, Teresa?
I think the idea is to allow the users to receive all the structured data through a single platform. I can trust the platform knowing that it's authenticity, it's full transparency, and it's in real time. So this blockchain platform, it can link all the data and the testing data from the third party like PMI, non-destructive test data and also third-party inspection reports in a blockchain record. I think this would be very useful for people like an engineer in Singapore and to communicate with an operator in the Middle East. So they do not need to rely on the emails or WhatsApp. They can just log into the single source of truth.
What you're describing sounds like it's quite a transparent system. So how important is supply chain transparency to your clients, particularly in some of the areas that you're working in, such as high-risk sectors like offshore energy or even hydrogen development?
It is essential. Clients want to know the origin, the specification, and the inspection status. And they actually want to verify the authenticity and the transparency of the steel that they receive. I give you one particular example. Recently, we supply a Dillinger plate to our client. It's for offshore, and it's a very heavy, thick plate. And client just wrote me an email yesterday and saying that the third-party surveyor would like to visit our office physically to see the hard copy of the record. And I think it's nothing personal, but they just want to verify that this is in compliance. But the other thing is, we are moving towards more advanced, innovative solution. The mill actually stopped giving hard copy. They are giving digital copy or electronic transmission. So actually, it doesn't make sense for the third party to visit our office to check the hard copy because the mill no longer issue the hard copy. They don't send the hard copy to our office anymore. So I see that there is a gap in the way that data being communicated, and I think people just still want to have that transparency and that real-time information.
But it kind of highlights a big knowledge gap, doesn't it, between, say, whether this was an owner or operator or EPC, that they're not realizing that actually these physical copies don't even exist anymore. So they're putting their trust in something which is already so long outdated. Doesn't make any sense.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, I know that many project delays trace back to slow approval workflows. What are the most common friction points that you see, and how do you think that these digital tools can remove those?
I think I would explain from two perspectives, from two various stakeholders. One is for the EPC. For when I work with my EPC clients, the most common friction points are all these communications are scattered. And sometimes there's no clarity whose responsibilities on the approval. And all this document tracking currently is still very manual. And EPCs come to me and say they are losing profit margin like from 15% down to 5%. What's the reason? Because of project delays, and they have to pay for the penalties, the liquidated damages, and on top of that, reputational loss. So I feel sorry for them as well. It's not about the steel grade or the quality that the services, it's about the delays on the approval. So these digital tools will then remove all these by creating a centralized dashboard that each approval step is visible, it's assigned, it's timestamped. Everyone knows what's pending, who is responsible, and what's been approved. So without needing to chase for the endless email. And the second part is towards the asset owners or the operators. For the operators, I think what they don't want the most is the unplanned shutdowns for their assets, offshore assets. And what they don't want the most is the breaches on the compliance, on the ESG part. So if an asset fails the inspection or lacks of proper documentation, it can force a shutdown, and they may face regulatory fines or even invalidate insurance coverage. So these are high stakes, high cost scenario. So an unplanned shutdown in an LNG plant can cost 1 million per day.
That's a lot of money.
A lot. Yeah. They are rich, but it's still a lot of money, right?
Yeah, exactly. No one wants to lose $1 million a day.
So without verifiable material traceability, they might fall into the risk of failing the compliance audits, which they have to stop their operations immediately. So then this digital solution is not about storing the data, it's about keeping the plant running. to make sure and to protect their asset value.
Okay, so Teresa, what you're talking about with these digital approval platforms is really going to reshape the way that manufacturers, distributors, and the end users all interact, particularly in terms of QA/QC documentation.
Yeah. So what I see is the process will be being shifted from being reactive to become proactive. Instead of waiting and react when things happen, like urgent stuff happen, all these compliance approval can be established in place, and the QA/QC documentation can be reviewed. Approvals can be given in stages by all parties, and people can see all this happening at the same time in the real-time data. So this not only speeds up the delivery, but also reduces the risk of last-minute surprises.
I mean, you're talking about these industries like, well, energy, oil and gas. They're not always the most fast-moving. Sometimes they're a bit conservative. Do you think that EPCs and asset owners are really ready to fully trust automated systems for material approvals? Or is there still some hesitation? Perhaps they don't understand it or they don't trust it yet?
You're right, Joanne. There are some cautious because we are so used to manual processes, to be honest. In order to start a new innovative, I need to get through so many layers of approvals. But I believe that once these EPCs and asset owners see the pilot project that cut the approval time from 6 weeks to 6 minutes, I'm sure they are usually convinced.
6 weeks to 6 minutes, that's impressive.
Yeah.
So, Teresa, how can digitalisation help link the test certificates, PMI data, and third-party approvals into a single verifiable chain of custody?
So, through a secure, centralized platform, all these documents can be tied together under a unique material ID and then stored in a tamper-proof environment. Most importantly, the data is unmanipulable, and it allows accessible to all authorized stakeholders. It's a private blockchain, so it's not open to public. Only through authorized station people can log in, and it creates an unbroken chain of custody from the production all the way until the final installation of the asset. So it reduces the risk and the administrative burden for the stakeholders.
There's a win-win right there. Teresa, what kind of feedback have you had from clients or partners on digitalising their approval inspection processes?
So for EPCs who are still very much focused on winning the project, they might not have the extra resources to handle the digital platform. And having a third-party platform builder or service provider, they could just focus on their projects, and we can help them to manage the data and manage the entire supply chain. They might not like the greater transparency, because some of them would think that, I create opportunity out of the messiness, out of the complexity. But I would like to think that we can do business, or we can earn our opportunities when we come from the higher ground or more ethical side, being seen as a thought leader to empower the platform, or having this real transparency and authenticity of the data. It would allow people to trust more.
It helps to improve the ethics of the entire business if we can remove that opaqueness, the messiness that allows people to be opportunistic and take advantage of gaps in the system, providing counterfeit materials or making money out of dodgy business practices. That surely can only be a good thing.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, Teresa, thanks. It's so interesting to talk to you about blockchain and digitalisation and where the industry is heading quite quickly, obviously. Thank you for joining us from Singapore. We really look forward to seeing you at Stainless Steel World Asia in Singapore next year. If anybody wants information about you, they can catch up with you there. So thank you for your time today, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you, Joanne. Thank you.